Well, my colonized name is Phillip Scott, but my ceremonial name, whenever we are, whenever there's an altar present, or wherever we're conducting ceremony, is Tsunka Wakan Sapa, that is Lakota for black horse. So the name was conferred by an elder in a ceremony, which is a traditional way that names are conferred upon us in our different traditions. I think it's important to point out, however, that I'm a ceremonial leader in the Lakota tradition. I am not Lakota by blood, merely by affiliation, but I have Oklahoma Cherokee on my father's side.
When you really start following your culture?
Well, my first big dream was when I was 6 years old. And in this dream, it was clear that the dream time and these other realities are equally as real as the ordinary world in which we operate, and in fact more real. And after that, so in the course of this dream, ancestor spirits began visiting me. Then at the age of 7, I had a near-death experience. And that opened up my world where I could actually see the spirits and the ancestors in ordinary time, in my waking world, not just in my dream time.
Not many people can see spirits, but we are sure that they exist. How do you see them? Through your mind or through your eyes?
Well, seeing is with the eyes of the heart,
okay.
But we can use our eyes to be able to perceive them as well. Different medicine people, different shamans from different cultures. Obviously, there's a different word in each culture for the word shaman. But these practitioners of the sacred, there's many different ways of apprehending the spirits. Some may hear the spirits, others may actually smell the spirits, some taste them, or they may be palpably present through touch. So it's not just the sight, which is a way of perceiving the spirit world.
Not many people are medicine people because you have to have a training, you have to have a knowledge and a long time doing it. How long has been this path in your life?
Well, once the dream started when I was 6, from about 7 to 17, I was being trained in my dream time because my own family, when I shared the dreams with them, my parents dismissed them as my imagination, at which point I realized that my world had to go interior, and so it's not something that I could openly share. But nevertheless, I was still being trained by the spirits and the ancestors that were guiding me in my dreams. And then when I was 17, I made a formal commitment to walk the red road, the native way of life.
People is asking for help and more knowledge. What do you recommend them to start?
Well, the first is an inquiry. So, according to the way I was trained and my traditional understanding, a medicine person or a shaman or a healer is not permitted to begin to act on behalf of the individual until there's some kind of request. Now, it could be a verbal request, but oftentimes in our ceremonies, if someone asks for a special healing or doctoring, then they'll offer tobacco in a ceremonial fashion. And that opens the doorway, right? That's the permission that is given to the practitioner to be able to work on behalf of the individual.
And what the spirits are telling you during this time? What is going to happen? Or what is happening right now?
Well, this is a very fertile time for us collectively as a species. I do not believe that enlightenment is an individual affair. It really is a collective endeavor. For one individual to become enlightened and for the rest of the world to remain asleep or in darkness is not going to serve us in this time that we're in. Rather, it's a collective push, that each and every one of us has to heal. We have to do the work to liberate ourselves from our own personal suffering, which then also serves as medicine to help support other people. And when there is a collective drive for this awakening, then we as a species can move to the next level of awakening, which can serve each and every one of us, as well as all of our relations.
In 30, 40, 50 years, in this transition from Pisces to Aquarius, that the people is going to be really connected, you think that we are going to be able in 30 years, 20 years to live it? Or is something that is going to happen in 50, 100 years after?
If we look at history, human history, the strive for peace involves also the embracing and acknowledgement of conflict. So I guess I try not to entertain a utopian notion that the peace that we achieve will be free of all strife. I think the medicine wheel is a way that we often live in indigenous cultures.
Medicine wheel. You mentioned something that we would like to know more about. Medicine wheel is something that you guys have in your culture, and you are like the inventors. But what it means, we really don't know what it means. The north, the south, the east, all. Could you explain us about that, please?
Well, perhaps in a very Reader's Digest version, but the medicine wheel is a sacred navigational compass, if you will. Right? There's wheels upon wheels, so it's a very complex system of living. So it's not just a concept, it's a way of life. We live the wheel. In each wheel, each direction has medicine. There's many faculties and properties to each direction, which is far too exhaustive to explain in this interview. But suffice it to say that the medicine wheel as a way of life is a sacred navigational tool. And when we live by the wheel, then we also understand the multiplicity of perspectives and directions that exist. So I'm not one to try to homogenize the world that we're in. Rather, it's really to embrace and understand the diversity that we live in. Right? This world is filled with great beauty and great diversity. So it's really about honoring that diversity. So what does that mean? It means that people may have a perspective other than our own. In fact, everyone's perspective is unique. When we sit in council, for example, when we honor the wheel and we sit even in a circle and we share together, there may be people that have a differing point of view than our own. And the point is not to ostracize them, but rather to embrace the differences that we face. So I don't believe that necessarily that we're going to have absolute peace on this planet, but it's what we strive to achieve, which is important. Naturally, my prayer is that the legacy that we pass on to our future generations will be a more peaceful world. Right? But where does that start? It starts with ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? So each and every one of us has to do the necessary healing work. We have to, I tend to think about, the spirits have given me a metaphor, if you will, to explain the opportunity for us to heal. So it's known as the burden bundle and the blessing bundle. So at the moment when sperm and ovum unite, when mystery merges with matter, okay, that's when spirit comes in. At the moment that we become who we are through that union, we are bequeathed two bundles. One is the burden bundle and the other is the blessing bundle. Now inside the burden bundle are all the fears, wounds, traumas, and issues of our families of origin, both maternal and paternal lineages. Mm-hmm. Inside the blessing bundle are all the gifts, attributes, and talents of our collective families of origin. Right? Now, as we walk our journey through life, both of these bundles will burst open. And inside, we get a chance to see. And what we find may not always be pleasant or pretty. Mm-hmm. Perhaps inside, we have a lot of dysfunction within our families. I have kind of a funny saying that nuclear families create nuclear explosions, right? So, there's a lot of insularity, there's a lot of fracturing in our families and our communities now, which engenders and creates more wounding. Okay? So these bundles burst open, and we get a chance, as we grow up, to see what is ours, what fears have been caused through our own life experience, but also what belongs to our family, to our society. Right? And if we can muster the courage, then we're going to try to extract some of the items from this burden bundle. Right? That's healing work.
You have to be careful about the energy that you guys are moving in one of these wheel healings. Wheels.
Well, in a ceremony, well, what I teach, but also what has been taught to me, is that we actually have to have trust and faith in our spirits. So if I'm concerned about protecting myself when I'm doing a doctoring or a ceremony on someone, then that's not going to be serving that individual because I'm more focused upon myself.
Got it.
So I trust the spirits, the ancestors with whom I work, to take care of me. So that I can be what's known as a hollow bone. Chief Frank Foolscrow would use that word. You know, I want to be an empty instrument through which the powers of the universe, the creator, the ancestors, the earth can work through me. So I'm not going to be concerned about myself, and I trust that the spirits will take care of me whenever I'm in that healing. In the course of that healing work that you're doing, you're going to draw upon your own life experience, your own knowledge, but you're also going to take the tools and the talents from that blessing bundle to try to extract one or more items from the burden bundle in your lifetime. But what's going to be most apparent in our immediate field and environment will be our mother, father, grandparents, aunts, uncles, right? So the immediate family environment and dysfunction and imbalance will be most prevalent there. But if we go back far enough, it's all a part of our history, right, collectively. And so if you can, you know, through blood, sweat, and tears, extract one or more items from the burden bundle, then you've done your service to humanity. So that if you have children or if you have students, you know, because even as a teacher, you can either pass on ignorance or wisdom, right? And you can either cause pain and suffering or promote healing. So to extract those items will allow for the burden bundle to be smaller when it gets passed and for the blessing bundle to be bigger. So that's how the spirits had explained that to me, you know, of the legacy of our own healing journey here on this earth.
Finishing with the other part, that is the sun dance. How often you have to do those sun dances and why?
Well, the sun dance is an annual ceremony. It is a 9-day ceremony of sacrifice. Without getting too much into the elaborate protocols and details, what I can share with you is that, you know, the first 4 days are purification. And so we are purifying our body and our spirit to prepare for sacrifice. Okay? Then there is a sacred tree, the tree of life, which is harvested also in a very sacred manner. And it is brought into what we call the mystery circle. Right? And it's in the center of the mystery circle is planted. And before it is uprighted, it is it's festooned, it's prayer ties, prayer flags, and other sacred objects are placed inside the tree and around the tree, and then it's brought into the ground with ropes. And these ropes are also attached to the dancers, meaning each dancer will have a rope, right? And then the ceremony commences, and it's a 4-day dance where the dancer will sacrifice and fast without food and water for 4 days. And in the course of this fasting, we're dancing from sunrise to sunset. And that dance is a prayer. So we are praying and sacrificing on behalf of the people. And what I mean by the people is all of our relations, not just two-legged, right? But all of our relations, the wingeds, the swimmers, the four-legged, the standing people, the elementals. Right? We are praying on behalf of all of our relations to bring healing and peace and balance. Right?
That's beautiful.
And as a consequence of that, oftentimes a dancer will have a dream or a vision to sacrifice. And then he's brought to the buffalo robe, and he can lie down or stand up, and then he's pierced. So when the chiefs, like myself, will pierce the dancer with bone or wood or antler, and through this this piercing, the rope is tied to the dancer. And then the dancer will pull against the tree of life until the flesh tears. And at that point he's free. Now when the dancer is tied to the tree, right, the rope is an umbilical cord. Right? It's an umbilicus where the tree of life is feeding the dancer, but similarly the dancer is also directing the prayers through the tree and out into the universe. So it ripples. Right? So perhaps an individual is praying and sacrificing for an infirm family member. Maybe there's someone dying in the hospital, so they put those prayers out so that person can receive blessings or healing, or maybe the person is dying, so a smooth transition into the other world. Or sometimes it's celebratory as well. So the sacrifice is, because really all that we have in this world, besides our bodies temporarily, is our word. So both our word and our body are sacred. So when we give that commitment, right, it becomes a holy sacrament. So the body becomes an offering to the universe. And as a consequence, these prayers and this flesh and that's the sacrifice that is offered can help bring healing.
What's the meaning or the most important words that you can say regarding your culture about the Indians here? What represent or what they mean in here?
Well, I think it's important to point out that when Columbus arrived on the shores, actually he came to Puerto Rico to begin with, which the island known as Boriquén. And then from there went to the mainland. At the time of his arrival, what I call the visitor's arrival here to Turtle Island, to North America, there are over 500 tribes. So I think it's very difficult to distill it down to the essence of what Native American really is, because every culture has its own unique language, its own unique cosmology, many stories. I mean, there are certainly similarities among many indigenous nations. However, to say what is the Native American experience, or to distill it down to what is the essence that it is to be Native American, I would be really cautious to try to share with that such an exacting statement. Mm-hmm. I will, however, if we look and see the similarities, because they're both very rich similarities, but also significant differences between cultures in terms of their worldview, in terms of their the ceremonial and spiritual practices. I think the hallmark of many indigenous cultures is their reverence for the earth, their sacredness for Mother Earth. I guess Pachamama is how they say it.
La Pachamama, claro.
And also an awareness and a cultivation of their relationship to the unseen, to the Creator, to the ancestors. There's many words to describe the great mystery and the great spirit in these cultures throughout North America and the world. To focus upon prayer, right? To use plant medicines in ceremonial ways, to draw upon the energies of the universe. These are some of the hallmarks that I see across the board, of emphasis and focus upon community and family healing as well. Mm-hmm. Right, so see, there's some of the similarities that I've noted on my journey.
The Nahual is equivalent to your culture, so to the bad spirit, or what will be the relation of?
Well, so my understanding of the Nahual and the Tonal, which comes from my Toltec sources and medicine people that I've associated with, is you have the Tonal, and the Tonal is the physical world, right? It's the world of matter, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also the world of our thoughts and our ideas. Okay? And so from the quantum level, right, down to the within the nuclei, out to the distant quasars in the universe, that is all the tonal world. Right? The Nahual would be the mystery. Mm. So what is beyond the tonal, that which we cannot identify through language, right? What is known as silent knowledge, right? So that would be the mystery, right? And the tonal is comprised of the outer world, and the way that I describe it is also the inner world, right? So if we were to see it as an onion, if you will, right? So in the inner core of the onion, which still has its rings, that would be the nawal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there would be one little ring, right? One little layer of the onion that is material,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then outside of that would be another layer of the onion, which actually goes ad infinitum, through infinity. But it's also infinitesimal on the inside, right? So there's just one band of material world and ideation and thought. So outer world, inner world is both the nawa.
The last statement that you can tell, you would like to share with the people that is going to listen to you and watching you, what would you like to tell them for the next years that are coming in this beautiful world?
To prepare themselves spiritually, emotionally, physically, and even intellectually. We're going to be facing many challenges as a species, and it's really important that each and every one of us do the necessary inner work, and to take our time, right? Even though we have there's an urgency in our world right now, we still also have to cultivate patience. I believe there's many people who are a shortcut that we take on a spiritual path can have adverse consequences. You know, in the beginning of our interview, you spoke about the time and the devotion that it takes. I mean, in my travels, the consensus is about 10 years. You're looking at 10 years of apprenticeship and study to become a traditional medicine practitioner. Because you're in service to the people, right? I always say to my students that if someone calls themselves a shaman or a medicine man, then that's a red flag, because it's a path of humility. And you serve the people, so it's about humility. And it's about proper training. Because if you're not properly trained, then you become negligent. And your negligence can lead to harm, not only of yourself, but to others. And there's many examples of that recently in the world. So, when the path calls you, when the path beckons, to become really methodological about it, step by step, to really take the steps in your learning, and to be very thorough in your training, to find a medicine person, to find a teacher whom you respect, whom you trust, who you can surrender to, right, so that you can learn. Because you want to empty your cup, right? When you are empty, then you can receive. And it's a long and it's an arduous path, but it's also a fruitful one. And eventually you'll be called to serve, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you've gathered all of the tools in your medicine bag so that you can effectively serve other people. And any gaps in your knowledge, right, can have serious consequences.